Good afternoon. The August 26th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. A little bit late today. The council ran over. But the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 12th meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes. Are there comments or questions? Hearing none, voting please. The minutes are approved. Next item is a consent docket.
Move approval subject to individual consideration.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. Are there items to be considered individually? Comments from staff?
Mr. Chairman, I draw your attention to just a couple of items. Item 3D is a vegetation project for Lake Stanley Draper, working again with the Oklahoma Water Resources Board now that the lake level has improved after our long-term pump station improvement project that dropped the lake level so far. Also, item K is an amendment that's fairly large involving a project. The total project change is somewhat large, and that's because in this case the project ran into some unidentified fiber optic cable. We typically limit it fits the rules in terms of change orders and addenda and the maximum allowable levels there, but it does exceed 10%. And that's, again, because we ran into a series of fiber optic cables that hadn't been identified in the design by the company that owned them. No harm, no foul. Just wanted you to know why that significant variation occurred.
Do you have any plans, Marcia, to do a similar program?
Yes. Hefner's the next stop. We think we'll go back to Lake Atoka as well and do some additional vegetation there, which has been successful. But Hefner, we're hoping to get smarter about managing the lake level there. To be real direct about it, I think that the issue is we aren't yet comfortable with what the weather pattern is like and the yield pattern is like out of the North Canadian Basin. It's causing us to grind a little bit on what to do at Lake Hefner. If we can keep lake levels within maybe a 10-foot range, we can have some success with vegetation. We're anxious about the whole North Canadian supply system, given that its recent drought-related experience. We're going to show you the goats.
Are we going to have a contest of naming the goats?
If the trust so desires.
Well, I had a question about the vegetation thing at Draper. You know, we did that, and it looked like it was on its way to being very successful, and then we drained the lake virtually. And I wonder what's been the recovery rate. You can't tell because so much other brush grew in the. So you can't, as you drive by the lake, you can't tell whether the vegetation, or I can't tell whether the vegetation is what we planted several years ago, or whether it's just stuff that grew there because the lake level dropped so low.
It's a little bit of both. It's not anywhere near as successful as, it's not bad. It's not all gone by any stretch, but a lot of what we see is brush that we would just do not have in the lake. It's not doing any harm, but it's not helpful. So we'll be coming back, figuring out what to take out. I think probably you let the new plants grow before you try to take out the ones that aren't helpful.
Right.
And that will all be a lake level management process unto itself.
Well, there are some areas at Draper I know that, you know, were clear of brush and debris, at least above the water level, that are now just completely covered with willow trees and all kinds of stuff.
Southwest corner of Hefner's got some looks like a grass field.
Yes. There's a strong desire to bring the goats to the lakes. We'll see.
Are the goats there yet?
The goats are in the canal. They arrived a couple of days after you approved it, and we have a News on Channel 5 story if we'll play at the end of the meeting or after you're adjourned to show you the goats. They have their own Twitter account as well.
Good. No room for chickens out there. Just a thought.
They have an app on their smartphone called Tablet.
We have a motion and a second on the consent docket. Are there further comments or questions? Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket's approved. Next item is the concurrence docket.
Move it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the concurrence docket. Are there items there to be considered separately? Hearing none, voting please. Or does staff have comments?
Yes, sir.
Concurrence docket's approved. Next item, emergency construction contract.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second on item 5, emergency contract in the area of 22nd and 21st, Rexville to land. Any comments or questions? Voting please. 5 is approved. Item 6, items for individual consideration. Item A.
Mr. Chairman, today, staff from the police department, the city attorney's office, and the utilities department present an option to amend the municipal code, clarifying that all that theft of any utility service in Oklahoma City is an offense that carries penalties of law. Mr. Keith?
We were approached by the police department to cooperatively draft an ordinance which would create a municipal fine penalty for tampering with or stealing utility services, not just for the utilities water department, but also for the gas, electric, and other utilities. And so cooperatively, we drafted that together. It's here for your review and recommendation so we can take it to council.
So in addition to covering city utilities, so private utilities that operate.
That is correct.
And what is a Class A and a Class B offense?
Class A violation carries with it a fine up to $100,
Okay.
potential time. Class B is a higher fine. I believe for this would be $500
Okay.
and 30 days. It's defined in Chapter 1 of our ordinances.
Okay, thank you.
So if this approved today, it will go forward to the council?
That's correct.
Any further comments or questions? Voting please. Item 6A is approved. Do we need executive session?
Yes, sir.
Move we strike. Second.
Motion and a second to strike item 6B. Voting please. Item stricken. Items from trustees. Anybody? Nobody. Item 7.
Marcia, to comment on lake levels.
Yes. Item 7, 8. Are you ready to move to
Yeah.
item 8, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So lake levels are, what you see in this month's comparative analysis of July 2014 to July 2013 is that we had buckets of rain in June and July of last year. So the local lakes were a bit fuller this time last year than they are today, but those we don't consider to be materially changed. Lake Canton, as you can also see, is up about 1.5 feet over last year. Atoka down about 1.5 feet, but Lake Draper up 7 feet from last year. Very exciting. So things are fairly normal. We are, as you know, seeing our hot summer these last few days of August, and have only seen water demand up to about 140 million gallons a day. You'll remember 3 years ago we were pumping, actually this time that year, about 200 million gallons a day. So
Do you think the conservation plan has had some impact?
I think the conservation plan is having an impact. People are paying closer attention. We got a request this last week for concerns about how the customer was being required, felt like he had to water every other day rather than twice a week, which is what he wanted. And we were able to get him a variance pretty darn quick so that he can water twice a week. And I think that those kinds of things were starting to become more clear to customers and to staff about how to process them. We're getting more comfortable with the program. Obviously, the proposed rate program is a big step also that should impact conservation. We think about 5% itself. So lakes are in good shape given the long-range forecast remains a very wet fall and a drizzly winter as well. So we should be in just fine shape given that the drought continues in the state. We hope for rain in the western part, of course.
I suggest that you might want to consider continuing your educational programs. I think it would be helpful. I think people are beginning to focus in on the value of water, and I think that's an important thing. Very good. Thank you very much. Did you hear what they're doing in Los Angeles? They're paying people to take out their lawns and putting AstroTurf.
There are more steps ahead for the work for conservation. Brett and his staff are working on an AWWA compliant concept to bring American Waterworks Association recommended plan to show you those pieces and parts. Then we can talk about how we might, again, we implemented odd even every day and a structure for reducing outdoor use. We've implemented, or we're approaching implementing an inclining block rate. There are other additional steps that might be relevant for policymakers to consider.
On the next subject, I'd like to submit a comment.
If we're through with the status report, next time's item B, goat report.
It's not me.
No?
I'll go for C.
Okay, so we have the video. We'll play the video after the meeting from Channel 5 if you didn't see it. And as I mentioned, the goats are on Twitter at Hefner Goats. And they're eating like crazy, and it's going pretty well.
Good. I'm not following where.
I just wanted to make a notation, a correction. I was working off of my memory, which I should never do, but Frances was nice enough to pull it up very quickly on her computer. In a Class A is a $500 fine, up to a $500 fine. In a Class B would be up to a $1,200 fine in 30 days at the discretion of the court, and then plus court costs and fees.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frances.
So the item 8B, we're going to watch this after the...
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are there citizens to be heard? We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion and a second to adjourn. We're adjourned.